This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Spoiler number 1 is Dr. Lee frowns. It stinks.
What is going on? What is going on?
Episode 140, submission number 230, Ace Crawford Private Eye. Ace Crawford Private Eye aired on CBS from March 15th to April 12th of 1983 for a total of 5 episodes. Okay, so this show was one of the 2 choices that Greg and I had sent to you, our public, at itwasathingontv.com and our social media. I don't remember what the other one was. Greg, do you remember what the other one was?
It was a case of spring fever.
Okay, it was either a case of spring fever or Ace Crawford Private Eye. We ended up doing a case of spring fever. I mean, the poll was close, except it wasn't really. But we ended up doing a case of spring fever. But in sort of researching what this show was all about, it was like, you know what? We'll do this show later on down the line. So here we are later on down the line. And now we're going to talk about a hard-nosed detective series. Or at least what could easily have passed one in the 80s.
That has Tim Conway.
And a whole lot of physical humor.
And Billy Barty. Sadly not with another little person and a magician.
No. Sadly, interesting, you know what, they could have done a case with a magician, and that probably would have resonated with the audience. As it is, you know what? Some lessons are so important that we put them out there at the beginning of the episode. This is one of them. This show does not last long, and parts of it do not age well.
Well, it's from 1982-83. What do you expect?
True. Like we said, hard-nosed detective, played by Tim Conway, who I guess would be fresh off of his stint with Burnett and looking for his next big thing. So that would be this, in which Tim Conway teamed up with Ron Clark, who, if I'm not mistaken, wrote High Anxiety, Silent Movie, and Life Stinks with Mel Brooks. So he is a known comedy writer. So he gets together with Tim Conway and they dream up this fever dream of Hollywood cinema transformed into the 80s. Imagine what would happen if Mike Hammer and Police Squad had a kid. That's pretty much what this show is.
That's a pretty accurate comparison.
Yeah, and it seems like every episode of this show just goes like... You ever heard of the every plot, where every show has like the similar plot structure? We have the case of the day, Then we have Ace walking from the wharf to the shanty, stopping for some either physical humor or to have an aside with some sort of miscreant hanging outside of shanty. And then you go into shanty, you talk to the barkeep, talk to the pianist, try and dodge the singer who has the hots for you, step into your office to take a case, you handle the case, and then at the end, you have the police lieutenant that appears out of nowhere, wondering how you handled the case. And when it's all said and done, you walk back out of the shanty, and you walk back onto the wharf, and you fall off the bridge. That happens every show, in that order.
No wonder this lasted 5 episodes.
Yeah. So, like we said, Tim Conway plays Ace Crawford, your hard-nosed, rough-em-up style detective. And Tim Conway is kind of, sort of, accidentally perfect for the role. Because think about it. A detective like this gets into a bunch of physical scrapes, just goes pop, pop, doesn't care about the law, just cares about the job. Tim Conway is known for 2 things: deadpan snark and physical humor, both of which are on display for the majority of every episode. I've watched all 5 episodes, and it was like, okay, so I guess it would be Tim Conway and some other guys. Some of them may or may not figure into the plot. Let's talk about who played with Tim Conway as Ace Crawford. Interestingly enough, the only time Ace Crawford ever used the gun was in the opening credits.
What a rip. He doesn't even use his gun.
He doesn't even use his gun. I think he gave it away to some guy. He gave it away to some guy in the opening credits.
Oh, well that's... Why would you give away a gun? To some random guy. You don't even know if he's trained to use a gun. Especially nowadays. You don't know what these...
Yeah, but did you see what Tim Conway did with the gun in the opening sequence?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did a Plaxico Burris on himself, and then the gun somehow hit his hat. Or the bullet, I should say, not the gun. But still, would you trust Tim Conway with a gun? I think maybe he made the right decision by getting rid of it. Maybe you don't give it to a random stranger. Maybe you throw it down in the sewer. Maybe you pawn it or something. But I wouldn't trust Tim Conway with a gun.
True. Okay, so Tim Conway, Ace Crawford, detective, hard-nosed, very physical, very gruff, very deadpan, very much Tim Conway. His partner in crime, fighting, is a certified public accountant named Toomey, who is played by Joe Regalbuto, who functions as the narrator of this show.
And we mentioned Joe Regalbuto not that long ago because he played a judge on an episode of Oh, Madeline. But also, as previously mentioned, he was Frank Fontana on Murphy Brown.
Come on. If you don't know who Frank Fontana on Murphy Brown is, what podcast are you even listening to?
Yeah, get out of here.
I love when you use topical humor. It's just like watching Murphy Brown.
Hey, Murphy. Blah, 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 John Sununu.
Murphy. Blah, 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 Tipper Gore.
Hey, Murph, you can't blah, 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 the Ayatollah.
Blah, 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 Bishop Desmond Tutu. Blah, blah.
And the thing about Toomey is, he reveres this guy. He thinks Ace Crawford is the bomb.com.
Why?
Because he thinks he's mistaken his dumb luck and brute force for sheer genius. I think everybody does, actually. And the thing about it is, he isn't allowed to get a word in edgewise while he's working with Ace. It's like you only hear him go into any sort of expository nature 3 times, or 3 general times. when he's narrating the episode, when he's explaining to Ace why he can't work with him on a particular episode, and in the epilogue when he's trying to explain how Ace was able to solve the crime, albeit accidentally. But yeah, he just thinks that Ace Crawford is this big genius when, in actuality, he's kind of lucky and kind of a nut. It's like, okay, and I guess when you're a CPA, you need some sort of excitement in your life, and I guess that's why he works with Ace so much. Because he thinks that of the hard-nosed detective life as this some sort of excitement, adventure. Well, anything's better than a CPA. Not just a CPA, a married CPA with a daughter. Both of whom are wondering why he's going out at all hours of the night to help out this lunatic.
He's not wrong. That's why I got out of being an accounting major and got into education, because the CPA life does not sound terribly exciting.
It is not.
Yeah, I don't want to be stuck in a cubicle for the next, well, at this point, 20 to 25 years of my life. I'd rather be dealing with the kids.
Yep. You're doing the Lord's work, Mike.
Yeah, I try.
Okay. Then we have the barkeep, who is played by Billy Barty. His name is, are you ready for this?
Oh, no. No. I knew this time was going to come, but no.
What is it?
His name is Inch.
Get it? Because Billy Barty is short.
Yeah. Of course, we remember Billy Barty as one of the short people in that one episode of Super Train.
Yes, with that other little person and a magician, replacing a presidential candidate with a double so real that even Loretta Swit couldn't tell. Hot Lips, what were you thinking?
And then you have Mello, the blind jazz musician at the shanty, played by Bill Henderson, and he sort of plays up that whole stereotype about, okay, he's blind, but he's able to do all the things that a sighted person could do because his other senses are so much more acute.
So he's like Daredevil.
Yeah, only he's stuck playing musician on the piano. And fun fact, Bill Henderson is actually a jazz musician.
And you could tell that when they showed him playing the piano, because there was a gag in, I think it was the second episode, where Ace Crawford was like leaning on the piano while Bill Henderson was playing it, and the piano moves, and you can actually see or hear the music go down in scale, go down a couple of octaves, and then Tim Conway pulls the piano back, and it goes back to normal.
Yep. And he's released a whole lot of material in his life. And one thing, I don't know if anybody else remembers him for this, but I remember him as one of the Venice Beach Boys on White Men Can't Jump. One of the best movies of the 90s, if you ask me. Has everything. Basketball, Wesley Snipes, Woody Harrelson, Bill Henderson, Alex Trebek, Rosie Perez.
Oh, and Rosie Perez doing awesome in Jeopardy.
What is a quince? Watch that stuff. Then you have the sultry, sexy, honey-voiced singer of the shanty, played by Shira Denise, named Luana. And the thing about, because this is a detective story, and every detective has to have a woman who lusts after the detective, even though he is married to the job, first and foremost. This would be her. An interesting thing, you know who Shira Denise was married to?
Oh, yes. Yes, I saw this while doing research before the show began. This was a surprise to me.
Who is it?
And one more thing.
Oh, Peter Falk.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
During the 70s and 80s, she was very much a that woman from That Thing. She played on One Day at a Time, Serpico, Beretta, Three's Company, Kojak, Family, Heart to Heart, Starsky and Hutch, Charlie's Angels.
And obviously we should add Columbo.
And obviously we should have Columbo, where she played in Bait to Murder from 1976, Murder Under Glass in 1978, Murder, A Self-Portrait in 1989, Columbo and the Murder of a Rock Star in 1991, Undercover in 1994, and A Trace of Murder in 1997.
So she was that person on that Peter Falk series. I'm sorry.
But interestingly enough, did not meet Peter Falk on the set of a Columbo. She met him on the set of Mikey and Nicky. And she was Falk's conservator upon his death, and according to his daughter Catherine, stopped some of the family members from visiting him, did not notify them of major changes in his condition, and did not notify them of his death and funeral arrangements, which later resulted in the passage of Peter Falk's Law that provides guidelines that guardians and conservators for an incapacitated person must comply with regarding visitation rights and notice of death. Such laws have been passed in over 10 states as of 2016.
That's kind of disappointing.
Yeah. And there's one person who was not credited in the opening credits, but did appear in every episode. And that would be Police Lieutenant Banning, who has been working on every case that Ace has been working on for months, if not years. And Ace manages to solve it in a single half-hour setting. And do you know who played this guy? Are you ready for this?
Oh, I know who played him, but yeah. If Greg doesn't know, he's going to flip.
Oh, what is it?
Dick Christie.
What?
You heard the man.
Dick Christie.
Yeah, Dick Christie. Ted Lawson.
Ted Lawson on Small Wonder.
Yeah, the dad on Small Wonder. That's all you need to know.
Oh, the dad on Small Wonder. Oh.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And his sole function on every episode is to look Ace in the eye and say, "How did you do it?" And, of course, what would happen after every episode would be Toomey would explain, or at least begin to explain, how Ace managed to solve every crime, to which Ace would interrupt and say something like, "Toomey, do you mind? We're talking here." And then Toomey would just say, "Oh, sorry, Ace." And those are all of the people on this show.
Or at least all of the regulars, let's say.
All of the regulars. And of course it was filmed on a studio with a laugh track, and I guess it was a pre-recorded laugh track because it doesn't seem like anybody stops for anything.
No, it was very obviously a bad laugh track. Which is a shame because I thought the laugh track ruined it. I thought if it was just a plain comedy with no laugh track or even no audience, not unlike Police Squad, I thought it would have been a much better series.
Yeah. Of course, Police Squad had more sort of sight gags, whereas this show had a lot more physical humor.
Yes, that's very true.
Let's go over these episodes, shall we?
Oh, we're not going to take too long this week with 5.
Yep, there are only 5 episodes, but I'm going to try and remember them as best I can, because, I've seen all these episodes. They are available on Pluto TV on demand, and you can get through all 5 in one sitting.
And it's on Prime Video, I believe, too.
Yep.
This is on Prime Video, but Mr. Smith is not streaming anywhere.
Oh, no, not that.
Oh, no.
And... Okay, let's just see, if Mr. Smith appears on Paramount Plus, and, maybe Mr. Smith will. I'm not holding my breath, but maybe there's your end-all solution.
Yeah. Okay, so our first episode is Murder at Restful Hills. Ace investigates the claim of Luana's grandmother that deaths at a nursing home weren't the result of natural causes. So, what begins is an old person, a bunch of nurses are carrying an old person to a therapy room, and they are never heard from again.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so Ace walks into the shanty and notices that Luana is just not really feeling it tonight. She's singing through her tears because she was worried about her grandmother. So Ace takes the case and calls in Toomey to see if Toomey can't get Ace, who isn't disguised as an old man, into Restful Hills. So he gets into Restful Hills, he investigates the therapy room, and finds out that Luana's grandmother is actually due for some therapy.
Wink, wink.
Mm-hmm. And what it is basically a treadmill that does not stop. So it's not murder per se, but she's basically going to run herself to death. Unless Ace can do something about it, which he does in his own inimitable fashion.
What does Ace have to do besides unplug it?
Oh, that would be too easy for Ace Crawford. He basically has to shut it off, but at the same time protect Luana's grandmother. So he does that. And he does that by hopping on the treadmill. One thing you're going to have to understand about Ace Crawford is he will find a roundabout solution to a very simple problem. But that only feeds into the physical humor of the show.
Oh, well, that explains it. I'm going to add that there is one guest star who actually, I consider him a name, but he just played hospital patient. So he's gone from a character name to a generic title like hospital patient. That man is Don Bexley, and we've talked about him in the past because he is a key member of the Sanford verse. He played Bubba.
Oh,
Bubba?
I Want My Daddy's Records.
Oh, now I remember him.
Oh, that's a classic episode of Sanford and Son.
What if Blind Mellow Jelly showed up and asked for his records back? Could he get them?
But Blind Mellow Jelly is dead.
But his son ain't. His son ain't.
I want my daddy's records.
I beg your pardon?
I want my daddy's records.
There is another known name on this episode, and that would be Arlen Dean Snyder, who is known for Dallas and future installment Trauma Center.
Is that the Trauma Center from 1983 that Alfie Wise starred in when he appeared on Match Game Hollywood Squares?
Yes. And it had Lou Ferrigno.
It did have Lou Ferrigno. You're right about that.
Mm-hmm. Fully bearded and everything.
Oh, glorious. Lou Ferrigno with a beard.
Our next episode, Bull Baits. Ace infiltrates a mobster's warehouse, but his hugging device, overseen by Toomey, went haywire while attached to his knees. So, this case involves Dee Dee, the girlfriend of gangster Bull Baits, who spends her time mud wrestling.
Woo!
And it's up to Ace to try and get Dee Dee out of that relationship and get Bull Baits into a jail cell before he rubs anybody else out. How does he do that? Well, the first thing he does is go watch them mud wrestle with Toomey. And while Toomey's casing the joint, Ace is working on Dee Dee, and, well, Dee Dee can't help but be attracted to Ace, and she gets mud everywhere, basically. So she goes and takes a shower while the mob closes in. And hijinks ensues. Bull Bates is trapped in his own hugging machine, and Ace saves the day, albeit accidentally. Do you know who plays Dee Dee?
I do not.
No.
Leslie Easterbrook.
From Police Academy?
From Police Academy.
Oh, that's terrific.
Oh, but yes. So, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, another name that I recognize, and this person only passed away within the last, I think, 3 years or so, playing a slob in this episode. That's actually the title he's given in IMDb, is Mickey Jones. And I think this is going to be our first reference ever to somebody starring on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
I don't think it was our first reference, because remember we did The Cool Kids.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah, very, very true. But it's been a long time since we've made an It's Always Sunny reference. He actually played Gunther, a gun dealer, in the episode, and this just reran within the last couple of days on Vice, Gun Fever 2 Still Hot.
Gun Fever 2.
Gun Fever 2.
Yeah, okay, you both know about it. But yeah, he played the gun shop dealer that wouldn't sell the gun to Dennis or Dee, and came back with the negative background check. That was him. But also, in addition to that, where else do I recognize him from? You're not going to believe this. More or less for the name than anything else. Well, first off, he played Pete Bilker on Home Improvement. And if you saw his face, you know exactly who he is. But also, he played in the season 10 episode of Married with Children, second to last season, titled Spring Break, a 2-part episode. He played Parley Wayne Rockefeller.
Oh.
He was the auto mechanic, the owner of the auto shop, where Bud and his friend's car broke down. And let's just say it was sort of in the deep south because they're going to spring break and the boys didn't have enough cash, Bud and his friends. So let's just say sexual favors were exchanged with one of Bud's friends who was left behind.
Of course.
Oh.
Look, Mr. Wayne.
No. Parley Wayne is my first name. Last name is Rockefeller. Had to drop it, though. I couldn't spell it.
Look, there's got to be a way out of here. I mean, a car, bicycle, horse. You're not dating at the moment?
You know, I do have a truck for rent.
How much do you want?
$1,000. And leave the fat boy here.
That is an outrage.
Yeah, we don't have $1,000.
And I haven't seen the episode, so I don't know what exactly the slob did, but he was a slob apparently. An unnamed slob.
Episode 3. Inch in a Pinch. Ace sets a trap for a merciless mobster when his bartender friend Inch is beaten up by thugs. Yep, apparently Inch is paying for protection. And why wouldn't he? Because, well, look at him.
Well, and also the mob was trying to shake him down because I think his rent for shanties, that was like $350 a month. And then the mob upped it to $1,000.
And then until they ultimately upped it up to $2,000.
Oh, no, $3,000. They really upped it. They're going for a big shakedown.
Big shakedown. Big shakedown energy. So, what does Ace do? He decides to take matters into his own hands and try and find out who is shaking Inch down and basically rough him up.
It's interesting, though, or at least funny. In this episode, after Inch gets manhandled by the mob, he's all bruised and whatnot. Ace goes up to his apartment, which is right above Shanty's. He's got the top floor there. And everything in Inch's apartment is small. Small enough, like a chair, where it gets stuck to Ace's backside, and he's trying to get it off, and he's panicking, and he's knocking over everything in the house. He broke the TV, he broke the lamp, and then also, we should mention that the ceilings in Inch's house are also, like, proportionally small. So Tim Conway is probably at least an average height actor, maybe even a little taller than average. As he's going through the house, his head hits the ceiling.
Whoops.
So apparently Inch's house only has maybe 5-foot ceilings or 6-foot ceilings.
Not that much clearance. Well,
plenty of clearance for Inch. But the thing is, there's your sight gags with Tim Conway, hitting his head on this low ceiling, and then Tim Conway getting stuck in the chair and trying to get it off, and basically destroying Inch's apartment in the meantime.
And there's not really much in the way of known entities on this particular episode. There's just Ace looking for revenge for Inch. So we move to episode 4, The Microchip Caper. Ace is hired to test plant security for a computer company and finds himself in the center of a multi-million-dollar con. So our hero is hired by the Mall of the Week. Yes, I'm calling it the Mall of the Week, who is played by Christine Belford. Was Christine Belford in anything we know? She played Steve Sanders' mama on Beverly Hills 90210. That's where I recognize her from.
That's for you, Scott.
So she played the Mall of the Week, Alexandra Rivers, who comes to Ace as an insurance agent who is looking to insure a microchip developer who is about to develop the next great multi-million-dollar microchip. Only she's not really an insurance agent.
Oh?
She's a con artist.
Oh, no!
She wants Ace to steal the microchip, and again, not just steal, but try and get past the security system, which is pretty lethal. I mean, they tested it out on a willing volunteer at the cold open, and basically said, it's a good thing that we didn't have actual bullets in that. So, presumably, this one's loaded with actual bullets. So Ace and Toomey go through the ducts and do a whole Mission Impossible thing, trying to steal the microchip to test the security system. But the real plan is, he's going to steal the microchip, and then he's going to get blasted by the security. And then Alexandra Rivers and her partner, I believe his name was Helmut Kasdan or something, played by John Van Drelen, they're going to make a mint selling it on the black market and leave Ace Crawford for dead. And basically frame him for the robbery. But Ace is armed with one of Toomey's sort of inventions, an electromagnet. And it turns out to be an incredibly powerful electromagnet. And apparently might very well be made out of Toomey's car, because that's another gag in this series, is that Ace's car is from Romania and it's hard to get parts in America. So he's borrowing Toomey's car.
A Romanian car? Oh, come on.
Yeah.
It is 5 years before the Yugo, so, or even 4 years. Or even 3 years, because this is 83 and the Yugo's 86, I believe.
Yeah. And because a computer microchip is involved in this episode, I'm assuming that this show takes place, as it is airing, in 1983.
Yeah. Although now Mike brought up the Yugo. I can't help but think about when the Yugo was featured as a prize on Classic Concentration in the bonus game.
Ooh, yeah, you wanted that. You know you want that Yugo.
Oh, yeah. I love... Remember when that contestant won the Yugo, and then she won another car, and Alex said, "You have something against the Yugo?"
What don't we have against the Yugo?
I've ridden in a Yugo. It's not fun.
I couldn't imagine it would be. Hey, I'm going to add one more thing about Christine Belford that we skipped over.
What's that?
There's one credit I think she's better known for that we sort of skipped over, even though she only played this character on apparently 7 episodes. It appears that she played Edward Stratton III's ex-wife on Silver Spoons. She played Evelyn Stratton, and then Evelyn Stratton Whiting. So apparently she may have gotten remarried.
So she was the one who was responsible for Ricky being in a military school.
Yes, she was. So if you don't remember her from 90210, you may remember her from that.
And she was also Maggie Randall on all 12 episodes of Outlaws, which, contrary to this show, is an actual time-traveling show.
You mean like Voyagers?
No, not that kind of time-traveling show. Well, we'll explain it when we get around to talking about Outlaws, if it's on the list. And then there's the last one. The Gentleman Bandit. Which basically takes the formula of every episode heretofore seen and turns it on his head. Because Ace's partner Toomey is sick. As in, he's got the cold. But he still needs a partner. And Luann, who is, let's remember, Luann is hot for Ace, is all but ready to throw herself at his mercy. Ace begrudgingly accepts the proposition, and that's important because this episode has Ace go undercover to foil a criminal targeting a magazine's female employees. So, we need a statuesque female employee. Hey, look! It's Luana. So she poses as a female employee, waiting for a gentleman bandit, who apparently lost his job to 2 things. 1, a computer, and 2, a strong-willed, career-minded woman. So here he is, taking revenge out on his former employer by kidnapping and bonding and robbing the female employees that stay late. One of them happens to be Luana when she is installed as one of the secretaries for this magazine. And of course, Ace being Ace is too busy, caught up in his own little world to even notice it. So, what does Ace do rather than getting another woman? He dresses in drag. Really, really awful drag. And using Toomey's wife's dress.
Oh, no.
That's just one of the things that didn't age well. Another thing, I can't believe I forgot to mention this in the last episode. In order to get information about the microchip, Ace Crawford dresses as a Japanese businessman.
Oh, that didn't age well either.
And Toomey acts as his interpreter.
Did anyone learn from Ray Walston in the Paul Lynch show?
Yeah, oh wait, it gets worse. He affects Japanese gibberish.
Oh.
Yeah. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. But back to the Gentleman Bandit. So Ace goes undercover in Toomey's wife's dress and a really bad drag job. And what happens is, let's just say it all ends up with Ace and the Bandit in a fight out on the street, and there are 2 types of people watching them. One is the police, with Lieutenant Banning in tow, and the other is a gaggle of women of the night, shall we say. Women of the night. And, an interesting name that pops up on this episode, playing Maureen, is, are you ready for this?
Who?
Marion Mercer.
Who's Marion Mercer?
She played Nancy Beebe on It's a Living.
Oh, okay.
And she also played Wanda Jeter on Mary Hartman, and the spin-off series Forever Fernwood, which is on the list.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But also there's another name. Playing the Gentleman Bandit is Basil Hoffman. And speaking of future entries, where he comes into play is he played Principal Dingleman on Square Pegs.
Oh!
Yeah.
Ooh.
We'll get to that eventually.
And he is still a perennial, that guy from That Thing.
Really?
Yeah, he's been on Seinfeld, Cousin Skeeter.
Cousin Skeeter?
The Practice.
The Practice.
The West Wing.
Oh, of course, The West Wing.
And he's been on things that have been announced for 2022, like Action Words, whatever that is. And, Deeply Superficial.
Well, I'm sure those are going to be quality.
I'm trying to look for the last known entity that he was in, and that would actually be For the People, which didn't last that long.
But yeah, his resume is a mile long. He was that guy from that show.
Still is that guy from that show.
Still is, yeah, depending on what happens with this Deeply Superficial pilot.
And interestingly enough, he would be reunited with Dick Christie as Mr. Beck on the Thanksgiving Story episode of Small Wonder.
Oh.
And also reunited with Marion Mercer on the Jewel Heist episode of It's a Living. He said he was a perennial that guy from That Thing. There he is. So, those were all 5 episodes. Now we have to ask the question, what went wrong besides duh?
Well, what went wrong, at least in my opinion, is, I mentioned it earlier, the laugh track. I know it's just such a small piece of this, but it didn't give it really a sense of authenticity. You could tell it was canned laughter.
Yeah, this was the days before single camera sitcoms had no laugh track. I mean, the recent Punky Brewster reboot does it, but I mean, in the case of the Punky Brewster reboot, it's a reboot of a show from the 80s that had a laugh track. So you can kind of give it a pass.
Kind of sort of have to. Especially when you have the kids basically look at Punky and Aunt Cherry and say, my God, what were the 80s like? By the way, one of the kids will be on a future entry that we do on this show.
What?
The eldest daughter, the only daughter, is played the daughter on No Good Nick.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, what entry would we have that she'd be on it?
So there's something to look forward to. I've only seen the first episode, but I'm like, I can see where Punky's never changed, but I can also see where Punky changed a lot.
Yeah. Although I am very happy with that George Gaines picture of Henry.
I am also happy. That is a nice touch.
Yes.
And you know what else is a nice, did anybody notice that the camera she uses was similar to the first camera that Henry gave her?
Yes! That camera still works after nearly 40 years.
Yep, 40 years plus the time when Henry got the camera.
Well, that is true.
Because remember, it's the first camera I ever used. It looks like the first camera anyone ever used.
This is how bad it's gotten. We'd rather talk about Punky Brewster than this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to chime in with what else went wrong.
I can tell you. Well, go ahead. Because I think I know what you're about to say.
Do you know what was on ABC and NBC at that time?
Yes.
What was on ABC and NBC?
On ABC, you had Happy Days and Mike on NBC.
Well, I was going to say, with Happy Days, you got to remember, this would have been the second to last season of Happy Days.
Yeah.
So it was waiting at this point.
Yeah, but it was still pulling in big numbers.
It's still Happy Days.
It's still Happy Days. It's still pulling in decent numbers, but it's still, I don't want to say long in the tooth. It's been on for a good 9 seasons at this point. But here's the one that's going to kill it on NBC. Da, 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 da.
Oh, yeah, because that would have just premiered.
Yeah, that would have premiered right around the same time. Yeah, the A-Team, in case you didn't recognize my bad rendition of the theme.
That's a good theme.
Yeah, that was the first half hour of the A-Team.
Yep. If you're going to aim for the king, you best not miss, am I right?
Yeah.
And actually, I'm also going to give another reason why it didn't last long. The ratings, it started out okay. I'm looking here, and it was in the low 30s. It was right behind shows including Alice and The Love Boat and Cheers and Square Pegs, oddly enough, since we just mentioned it. So it was kind of up there. It wasn't necessarily in the bottom of the pack to start. But then shortly thereafter, we go from 39 down to 48, where it's with Gimme a Break and Quincy, which, again, would have been on its last legs, because I think it was canceled by 84 or 83 at the latest. And Amanda's, another name that we're going to talk about in the future. Archie Bunker's Place, again, another show that was ending that season. But then after a couple of weeks, and I believe this is when it actually was in reruns, it tumbled into the 60s and even into the 70s.
Oh.
Yeah, it ended its run 74 for the season.
Yeah, I'm looking at one of the last weeks, and it's ranked 75th for the week. And there are some names that are in that 70 range. One show that I'm seeing, which we all know, and actually it's 75 out of 80. Let's just say that right now. 75th out of 80. 71st was Fame. 73rd was Taxi. 74th was Cheers. And then actually number 80 is a previous entry of ours, Love, Sydney.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was in the middle of the pack, and by the end of the run, it was darn near the bottom.
Yeah. Well, like I said before, this is available on Prime Video, and you can stream it for free on demand on Pluto TV On Demand. Of course, it shows up on Classic TV Rewinds, or one of those channels. But let's just say you haven't gotten rid of your VHS yet.
Oh, no. I know where this is going.
Mike, I think you know where the button is.
Yeah, I'll put it in. Actually, before we do that, I just wanted to mention one other thing about the episodes. I think we determined there was a numbering issue.
There's a numbering issue on Pluto. I don't know if it's anywhere else, but there's a numbering issue on Pluto where if you're going to watch the show, well, you can watch the shows in any order, really. But if you watch it on Pluto from 1 to 5, you're going to end up watching episode 2 first, and then you're going to watch episode 3, and then you're going to watch episode 1.
And I'm just going to add, this is not just limited to Pluto TV. Somebody, I believe, actually recorded the episodes on a device through Pluto TV and uploaded them to YouTube. So I thought I was watching episode 2, and I was wondering why Chico's description was totally off from what I thought was episode 2. Nope, it was episode 3.
Yeah.
So be careful depending where you go, because you may be thinking you're watching one episode when in actuality you may be watching a totally different episode.
Right. I was waiting for Bull Bates to show up in episode 2. Nope, he was on episode 1.
Yeah, and I was watching the Bull Bates episode, and that happened to be Inch and a Pinch. But enough about our little caveat with that. I'll play the damn theme.
Play the damn theme. Okay, so we have a VHS pre-owned copy of Ace Crawford Private Eye. Again, pre-owned with 3 episodes. Murder in Restful Hills, Bull Baits, and Inch and a Pinch.
Is this a pre-recorded tape or someone actually
This
taped
is a
it up?
pre-recorded tape.
Yeah, this is actually
a mass-produced pre-recorded tape.
Yeah, it was actually for sale. Yeah.
Who made this tape?
That would be, if I could get the label up, Forum Home Video.
I don't know what that is.
It's one of those home video clearinghouses that will take the license to anything. But yeah, it has 3 episodes: Murder in Restful Hills, Bull Baits, and Inch and a Pinch. Here's the descriptor. Fabulous funny man Tim Conway stars in 3 terrific episodes of Ace Crawford Private Eye, a sort of Dorf's detective agency. Like a confused Columbo, Ace Crawford stumbles past clues and bumbles by bad guys. But somehow or other, with dumb luck and the help of his cockeyed collection of cronies, Ace Crawford always gets his man. In the first Ace Crawford Private Eye adventure, Ace disguises himself as a dotting old man and goes undercover at a nursing home to catch the creeps who are taking advantage of the old folks. Then, Ace meets up with the mud wrestling queen and must contend with her boyfriend, a notorious gangster. And when Ace finds out a merciless mobster is running a crooked linen service, he sets a trap to clean up the dirty laundry. This has a 1989 copyright date, and yes, I guess this was released around the time of Dorf on Golf.
Oh, Dorf on Golf, classic.
Yeah, way to capitalize on the Tim Conway sort of mystique there. All right, Mike, you're first.
Okay, this is tough. Obviously, the show didn't last that long, but really, how many of these have to be out there?
Well, they did say it was rare.
Well, it's obviously
it's rare and out of print.
Yeah, it's definitely out of print because we're not doing VHS anymore. Oh gosh, I'm going to say $39.99.
All right, Greg.
$1.
Okay.
That rare then.
Oh yeah. How rare can it be if it's on Amazon? Anyway, this was actually bought. Okay, so it was, judging by the picture that's on the eBay, it was bought at Walmart for like $7. The actual buy it now price. Oh God, I can't believe this. $49.99.
I got it.
Bull.
It has not sold yet, so if you
wonder why.
Who knows? But,
okay, all right, screw this. I'm going to go back to watching Sex Sent Me to the ER and Discovery Life.
Okay, well, what can I say except Ace Crawford? It had Tim Conway and a select few people willing to put up with Tim Conway's antics. But ultimately, it was just a thing on TV. Moral of the story, you're never going to get anywhere without Carol Burnett. Unless your name is Vicki Lawrence.
Yeah.
Or Lyle Wagner.
Of course, Lyle Wagner.
Well, I stayed at Inch's place showing slides half the night. I got home real late. Boy, was the wife angry. You should have heard her curse out Ace Crawford. Can you imagine feeling that way about the world's smartest detective? I can't. I don't know what to do with her. The only thing I know for sure is that there'd be other nights, other stories, other close calls, other intrigues. But only one Ace Crawford.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
It's 2 main events. You take the kids and Lenny.
Yes.
Who will come out on top? Nell or her kids?
Thanks.
I think my body's in a stage of rapid change.
Who does that to a body?
Lenny or his kids?
Someone's gonna get a maid.
We don't need a maid. That's why we had kids.
It's parents versus kids.
Some species kill their partners after mating,
And others eat their young. Where's God, Dad?
He works in mysterious ways.
You're thinking of Columbo.
You take the kids and Lenny, Saturday.
She lived in a world of innocence.
So, first time to the big city.
He thrived in a world of danger.
I'm a police officer, ma'am. Your son's a material witness to a homicide.
But when their worlds collided...
Now, where is he?
Two people who were so different...
Do not go so far.
...became so close.
I've committed no sin.
Maybe not yet.
Harrison Ford, Kelly McGillis, Witness, Sunday. Two men from different sides. But a brutal murder has brought them together.
This is my command here.
And when he falls for the colonel's daughter...
I'm here because I'm interested in you, not your father.
Prove it.
Sparks fly in every direction.
I don't want you seeing him.
Is that an order?
In the midst of murder...
Can you prove that he pulled the trigger?
...and passion.
I want to see you again.
Something's bound to explode.
What are you so afraid of?
Sean Connery, Meg Ryan, Mark Harmon, The Presidio, Tuesday.
If you love the gang from Beverly Hills, wait until you meet the Salingers.
I just can't figure out how you could not want to sleep with me. Excuse me?
5 young people on their own.
Aren't you at school?
I don't need school as much as the other kids.
Growing up way too fast.
You actually think I'm going to cover for you so you can stay out all night at that club?
Because that's the only way they know how.
If you don't help me out, I'm going to be in big trouble here.
Maybe that's what you need.
Don't miss Party of 5, Mondays on Fox.
Give me 2 59-cent tacos. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. We don't have any. This is Taco Bell, right? Correcto. What happened to your 59-cent tacos?
They're 45 cents.
For a limited time, Taco Bell's original 59-cent tacos are now 45 cents. Hurry in for the same great taste of seasoned beef, crisp lettuce, and real cheddar cheese in a crunchy corn shell for just 45 cents.
And your change? All right. All kinds of change. Change is good.
Change is good.
Wednesday, meet Danny and Linda, 2 neighbors who never quite got along.
Oh, gee, I'm sorry to hear that.
Until his wife ran away with her husband.
She went after him.
He went after her.
John Ritter and Penny Marshall learned to love thy neighbor. And Thursday, Joan Collins has some neighborly advice of her own.
You name it. I like it.
Dark places, prime passion, prime movies. Wednesday and Thursday nights. Feel the thunder on USA's Tuesday Night Fights. Tomorrow at 9, 8 Central.
Hello, I'm Larry Bud Melman, president of Melman Bus Lines, with another of my 5 good reasons why you should ride Melman buses. Number 6, when it rains, we roll. Not all buses can come out in wet weather because they're just not equipped for it. But in each and every Melman bus, we've installed one of these. The bus of the future is here today at Melman.
Episode 141, submission number 811. You Don't Know Jack. You Don't Know Jack ran on ABC from June 20th to July 18th of 2001 for a total of 6 episodes. Gentlemen, I know that wasn't the theme to the actual TV show. That was the theme for one of the computer games. But the computer games I've loved. I've been playing it for 25 years at this point. It really is an amazingly hilarious game.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
It is.
I remember playing this when I was in high school And then when they opened up the web show, they
on Berserk.com.
On Berserk.com, I would play that every week. And then they got the PlayStation version, so I got the really good PlayStation version, and then I got the not quite as good, but still pretty good, The Ride version on PlayStation.
Oh, is that Mach 2?
Mach 2, yeah.
I have both of those versions on PS1.
Yeah, I have all those games. Actually, I think I have all 6 regular versions of that game for the PC. Plus, then they did like a sports version and a TV version. And then there was Head Rush, if you remember Head Rush.
Oh, I remember Head Rush.
Oh, there was a little tabletop version, too.
I got that. Yeah, I got that for Christmas one year from a friend.
I still have the tabletop version. And actually, one of the hobby shops I go into, one of the stores I go to, sells the actual tabletop version, complete with the box.
Nice.
Oh, that's got to have some value.
Not much.
Yeah, well, I said some value. I didn't say how much. But then it seems like You Don't Know Jack sort of, I don't want to say faded away into obscurity in the early to mid 2000s, but we did go a number of years without a version of You Don't Know Jack. And I would say it was probably a good, I'd say 8 years or so, like from 2003 till about 2011.
Well, first they brought it back as like a Flash game.
Yeah, they did bring it, as a Flash game. But I'm talking about an actual, like, tangible CD version or a game version.
Oh, yeah, the THQ version that was released on PC, Xbox 360, PS3, and the Wii.
Yeah, I played the Wii version. It was all right.
And I can vouch those for the DS2 because I have the DS version of that.
Oh, I have the DS2. But the one good thing is the 360 and PS3, I think, had like downloadable question packs.
Yeah, it did, I believe. And then there was another version that came out a little bit later. I think it was the 2015 version. But that was actually, I think, part of the one of the first party, the Jackbox party packs.
Yeah, it's one of the first Jackbox games.
Yeah.
When they switched from Jellyvision to Jackbox.
Yeah, and then within the last, I think, 2 or 3 years, they released a newer version, and actually say newest version, and the newest version actually allows you to play against 7 other people. It's an 8-player game.
Now you can use your mobile device.
Yep. I love those things.
So, yeah, this is a franchise that has a great legacy and probably one of my favorite series of any game. And it's more or less for that reason that I picked this episode. I did like that. I like the TV show, but I think the issue is it was maybe a little too absurd for your normal viewer.
A little bit too absurd.
A little too absurd, especially on the premiere episode, the first episode. And we're going to play, and here's where the open to the show's going to be, because there is a very special guest star in the open of that first episode. One Regis Philbin, because this show, I believe, debuted right after Millionaire.
Yes. Yes, it did.
And here's the little exchange that Reg and the host, who we'll get to in a second, he's another very familiar name. Here's their exchange and the open to the first episode. Enjoy.
Good friends at the phone company are connecting me to another free long-distance call.
I'm sorry, that's incorrect. I'm sorry, that's incorrect. I'm sorry, that's incorrect. I'm sorry, that's... Hello?
Hi, it's Regis Philbin.
Regis? Wow, what am I, somebody's lifeline?
No, Paul, I'm just calling to welcome you to the wonderful world of game shows and to pass along a couple of pointers.
Pointers? Hang on, Reg. Let me get a pen. Got it, Reg. Point away.
Well, the first thing you should do is smile. Smile a lot. Everybody loves a guy who smiles.
Wow, smile. Next thing you'll be telling me to dress sharp and the clothes make the show.
And dress sharp, Paul. Clothes make the show.
Okay, I will, Reg.
And another thing, the audience loves seeing other guys get rich. The more comfortable your guests are, the more likely they're going to win the big bucks.
Listen, Reg, you seem really busy. Let me let you run.
Did the new guy just hang up on me?
You think this show is going to make anybody but me a millionaire? Then you don't know Jack!
It's the show where high culture and pop culture collide like George W. in the English language. Here's Troy Stevens.
Thank you and good evening. And to those of you at home, hello. You look different. Have you had some work done?
Did you notice that Regis said the phone company?
Yeah. Not AT&T, which would have been the underwriting sponsor of the Phone a Friend's Lifeline, but the phone company.
Yeah, somebody didn't pay for sponsorship. But actually, and we'll, when we get to the show itself, there are other guests. It was a cavalcade of people. Now, I'm not going to say guest stars. I only really found one other major guest star, but you had a lot of, let's say, sidebar activity going on.
Well, hold up. Are you going to talk about we're going to referring to the cameo in episode 2?
Yes, we are.
Oh, okay. Because I have a lot to say about this.
Okay. So the game itself, in case you've never played You Don't Know Jack, first and foremost, why? Second off, you need to fix it like now or yesterday. But the game itself it's a trivia game. It's a question and answer game, mostly multiple choice, but with some twists, some wordplay types of twists, and sometimes some racy twists, some naughty twists. And that carried over to this game. And that's why I said I think this game was a little too goofy, a little too out there for a crowd which just saw a millionaire with Regis, straight-laced. You don't have any sort of wackiness generally going on, or absurdity, let's say. Not necessarily wackiness, because Rage can be wacky, but absurd humor. So I think for that reason, maybe it just didn't get the viewers for that reason. Maybe.
Well, you know, another thing about that, you know who one of the head writers was on that show? Joel Hodgson.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. And of course you would know his work on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, yes.
Okay, that's very interesting, Chico. Thank you very much. So the game itself, it was reminiscent in some ways of the computer game, in terms of the question writing, in terms of some of the comedy, in terms of some of the actual games they played, or categories, if you will. So the game was played with 3 players, and the game actually was sort of broken into 3 different rounds with a commercial break in between each of the rounds. So in round 1, usually questions were worth $1,000, and they were generally multiple choice. There are some exclusions to this rule, but for the most part, they were a 4-answer multiple choice type of question. And there was always some sort of twist to the questions in terms of some sort of joke or a common thread or something in that regard. And they played a couple of questions, pretty straightforward, albeit with goofy answers. And again, if you've ever played You Don't Know Jack, it's quite funny at times. But then to end the first part of the show, the first segment, they played a staple from the You Don't Know Jack game, Dis or Dat. And what Dis or Dat basically did was you had 2 choices, and there would be a statement read, and then you had to decide whether it's Dis or Dat. Or possibly it could refer to both of them, so you'd actually choose both. So actually in the first episode, the Dis or Dat was Barney or Satan, or both. And one of the answer choices was actually both, because both had a tail. That was actually the question, which one has a tail? Both do. Even though, Satan and Barney, we know how much people hate Barney. And that's something you'll find in every game of You Don't Know Jack. There's always a Dis or Dat round in some capacity. And even, like I said, in the 8-person, you don't know Jack, 8 people play along at the same time. So that can really change your scores for the better or for worse. The answers in the dis or dat round were worth $1,000 apiece. There was no opportunity for other people to steal on a rebound. And also, if you gave a wrong answer, you lost $1,000. So again, just like the computer game, if you're right, plus 1,000. If you're wrong, minus 1,000. And then we get to round 2. Round 2 is more or less the same as round 1, but again, there's a little bit of absurdity involved. First off, the dollar values in round 2 are doubled, so they're generally worth $2,000. But then, and this may be my favorite part of the TV show, you have, and I feel like I need an echo effect for this, the $2 million dollar question. There's a $2 million question. This is my favorite part of the show. I'm not going to lie. Even though it's predictable, even though you know what's going to end up happening. The $2 million question, it started at $2 million, but the value decreased very quickly. We're talking generally $100,000 per second for starters, and then at a slower rate beyond that, because obviously you don't want to make this a $0 question. And what would happen is, purposely, Troy Stevens, we didn't even mention Troy Stevens, the host, who is played by the one, the only, Paul Reubens. Pee Wee Herman.
That Paul Reubens?
Yes, that Paul Reubens. And he had a look, he almost looked like somebody that was a cast-off from the world of Austin Powers. He had the very long hair, and he sort of played I don't even want to say a swinger type, but he sort of was a swinger type, kind of, sort of, a lot of double entendres and breaking the fourth wall, flirting with the audience and stuff like that. So Troy Stevens would have a question, but invariably something would distract him. It could have been a gust of air blowing the card out of his hand, and he can't pick up the card because it's flying around the studio. Or he might be fighting with ninjas, because just somehow ninjas appeared right when the question was being read, and he had to fight them off. The end result was always the question would be worth no more than a couple of $100. It might be $200, $300, but the dollar values went so low, they even got as low as into the teens, and I think there was even one time it got into single digits. So all these theatrics, all this goofiness on the $2 million question, Eshton, and it ended up being worth, I don't want to say pocket change, but pocket change, because you're not playing for $2 million, you're playing for $17. And then what happens is that takes us to round 3. And believe it or not, now round 3, the values are tripled. So it's worth $3,000 for each question. And then also in this round, there was a question titled in the category, Things That Sound Dirty But Aren't. So there's your sexual double entendres there. And then the final question of the round was worth $5,000, and it was sort of reminiscent of a little something from Remote Control. Everybody remembers Remote Control.
I love Remote Control.
There was a little event called Beat the Bishop. No, that's not a euphemism, at least.
Oh, boy.
Well, that's what beating the bishop was. Okay, I'm sorry if at age 41 I just described a euphemism for you.
I know what it means. That's the thing.
Okay, all right. Wasn't sure about that. But Beat the Bishop was doing a math problem, but you were given them in different ways. They might say, instead of 8 plus 3, they might say, how many family members are there in the Brady Bunch, plus how many daughters are there in the Brady Bunch. So that would be your 8 plus 3. That's what this was. This was a 4-level question. And if you got it right, you got $5,000. If not, you're probably out of the game at that point. One thing I'm going to complain about, and I'm putting my math teacher hat on. And actually, let me do it right now. I'm going to put on my teacher hat. I'm wearing a hat from my school, so that's my teacher hat for this.
This is your teacher hat.
You can see what it says. It says my school's name on it.
Yep.
One thing that I noticed while watching this is apparently order of operations gets thrown out the window.
Yeah. Because I have an example here. The unit number on MASH added to the number of digits on a U.S. Social Security number minus the number of Beatles on the cover of the White Album divided by the number of represented by a roll of snake eyes. Now, if you were to do a proper sort of order of operations, then the answer would be 4,086. 4077 plus 9 minus 0 divided by 2. And 0 divided by 2 would be first because PEMDAS. 0 divided by 2 is 0. So that would just be 4077 plus 9 minus 0. Here you're just sort of answering it all in order.
Yeah, and actually that's the case on the first episode because the big thing was at the end you had to multiply by 0 the number of Oscars that Weekend at Bernie's won. And the thing is, the order of operations, the way you're supposed to do it is, again, as Chico said, PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. Instead of doing the actual answer, they accepted the answer of 0, which is clearly wrong. Now, I don't think that PEMDAS and order of operations was invented between 2001 and when I got my teaching license in 2006. So, yeah, somebody screwed up there. And I even wonder what would have happened if somebody actually used PEMDAS as they should and got a different answer but were ruled wrong. I don't know. Maybe it just falls in place with the absurdity of the show. You know, let's ignore all rules of math. But also, when people are doing this math problem, there's always some sort of distraction going on. You might have a crying baby. On the premiere episode, you actually had, I think it was a 5 or 6 piece mariachi band. You had children on violins playing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Just not that well, so it isn't very peaceful. They're probably squeaking a lot. And then the 2 people who have the most money after this question, they go back to another standard from the You Don't Know Jack series. They go to the Jack Attack. And the Jack Attack, it's played the exact same way as the video games. You're given a prompt and you're given a category. And the answers, you're going to see 4, 5, 6 answers fly by. And you have to lock in while that answer's on the screen. And if you do, you got $5,000. And if you got it wrong, you lost $5,000. And they'd play 6 questions, which I believe is the number that they played in the You Don't Know Jack game. I think it was 6, maybe 7 questions. And whoever had the most money won the game. And the other player received a consolation prize, like a gift basket of deodorant. Not kidding. That was the consolation prize on the first episode. And we should also add another key piece from the You Don't Know Jack series was the announcer of the show who also announced or handled the saying the names of the different possibilities in the Jack Attack is Cookie Masterson.
Yes.
Who you also might know better as Tom Gottlieb, his real name. And Tom Gottlieb has one of those voices you've definitely heard because he's been narrating whacked out sports for years now. I mean, it's got to be well over a decade.
Longer than a decade.
I said at least a decade. Well over a decade, yes. So, I mean, it might be closer to 15 years now, but he's the voice of whacked out sports if you get reruns of that from, gosh, like I said, 2008, 2009. It's been on reruns here forever. It's classic Sunday afternoon filler or Sunday night filler.
Fun fact, Tom Gottlieb, brother of Jellyvision founder Harry Gottlieb, who voiced the original host, if you don't know Jack, Nate Shapiro.
In the first game.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that takes me back. I didn't even know there was an era where Cookie Masterson didn't exist.
Well, no, Cookie in the first game was the producer in the first game, if I remember correctly.
It's been a long time since I played the first version.
Yeah, because in the lore, he started out as the producer in the first 2 games, and then I think it wasn't until, like, You Don't Know Jack movies where he transitioned to the host. And then he was the host, I think, in Volume 3.
And then also, you did have kind of goofy activities happening before and after the show. You actually had, well, not actually, but there was a murder at the start of the second episode, and they were investigating it. And we mentioned Regis at the beginning of the first episode. And then actually in the first episode, and I still remember this from 20 years ago, somebody on this stage is going to walk off with this car. And they show a nice brand new car. And the joke behind it, who's driving off with the new car? Troy Stevens is driving off. You see him peel out of the parking lot at the end of the show, sort of maniacally laughing. Ha, ha, ha. I didn't think any of the contestants were going to win the car. I said somebody on the stage is going to drive off in this car.
No, he looked at the camera and said, I told you someone on this stage was going to drive off in this brand new car.
Yes. Classic. Again, absurdist humor. Classic in my mind. But again, it's just a little too out there for an audience after Millionaire, after this tough quiz where millions of dollars are at stake, especially at this point, because this would have been in the middle of the escalating jackpot era. So you're playing maybe not for $2 million at this point, but you're probably playing for, I would guess, at least $1.5 million or $1.4 million. So you go from this big money, high intensity quiz show, very serious, to, I don't want to say fluff, but let's call it fluff. It was sort of fluff. Well, I don't want to say terribly fluffy, but it was not Millionaire is basically what I'm trying to get at.
No. I can tell you right now, did Who Wants to Be a Millionaire ever have the host fighting off a horde of ninjas?
I don't think I saw Regis fight off a horde of ninjas.
I'm looking at Troy fight off a horde of ninjas in the $2 million question.
Yes, and I believe that was the third episode where that happened. But also we should add a couple other things. First, one of the production companies behind this, besides Jellyvision, obviously, Carsey Werner Mandabach.
That Carsey Werner Mandabach?
Yeah, the one who, among other things, brought us Oh Madeline, but also brought us The Cosby Show. And that just seems weird saying that. From the people who brought us The Cosby Show and numerous other shows, obviously they did Different World and so many shows back in the 80s and 90s. They brought us this? Well, I mean, again, let's remember their first show was Oh Madeline. That didn't do so well. So maybe those were like the bookends. You had Oh Madeline to start. You Don't Know Jack wasn't necessarily at the end, but it was after the good stuff in the middle.
Yeah.
And then also, we did have the occasional cameo. We mentioned that earlier. We mentioned Reg, obviously, on the first episode. But on the second episode...
Oh, yes.
Troy Stevens starts off the game with Let the Games Begin. And who comes from behind one of the walls, one of the backdrops? Carl Lewis with an Olympic-style torch to light a scented candle.
Yeah.
A scented candle.
A scented candle. Yeah, it was like a purple or blue scented candle, maybe like 4 or 5 inches tall. And he had this big torch, like 3 feet tall or 4 feet tall, 4 feet long. And he just bowed it down and lit the scented candle.
That is absurd, yes.
Hey, there'll be one more time this year where we're going to talk about Carl Lewis. And you know what it is.
Francis Scott Off-Key, yes.
Don't spoil it.
Yes, that's Carl Lewis, 9-time Olympic medalist. going on You Don't Know Jack, and all he did, he had a line or two, but he took the torch and lit a scented candle. Was that really worth the money to pay Carl Lewis to do that cameo?
No. Yes.
No, I think he had it right the first time. So, yeah, that really, I mean, it's not a long episode, but that's You Don't Know Jack. It was very, again, I'm going to use the word absurd. I may be using it a little too much, but it was absurd. It was ridiculous. It was funny. It was a little bit of a deviation from the You Don't Know Jack computer game series, or video game series, I should say. But one thing that we could definitely say after almost 20 years, now that makes me feel old, but after 20 years, we could definitely say that You Don't Know Jack, it was a thing on TV.
It was.
Yep.
But
and I'll tell you right now, if people found out about it before it was canceled, maybe it would still be a thing on TV.
I don't know, and I'm gonna just chime in with this. One of the last episode that aired was actually the pilot episode.
Yes,
we'll say there were 5 episodes plus the pilot. It still was 6 episodes that aired, and I remember again 20 years ago. Actually, I think it was over 20 years ago at this point, because I think these episodes recorded, I want to say fall of 2000, fall or winter of 2000.
No, 2001.
Yeah.
Yeah, ABC sat on these episodes for a little while. I'm going to assume probably 9 months. Maybe they were meant to air or expected to air in September to December of 2000, but were burned off in the summer. Well, that might be the reason why we didn't see any more episodes, because they were just burning them off, because gosh knows networks have done that with other shows, and it's bit them in the butt, kind of, sort of. Go back to Tell the Truth last week, when they, being ABC, sat on those original episodes for about a year.
Well, remember, Mike, wasn't there supposed to be a writer's strike in 2001?
It's very possible, because remember how many different non-scripted shows they had on at that time? Like Weakest Link. I mean, how many times did they air Weakest Link? It was one of those shows that was shown quite often.
Yeah, but I do remember that they were expecting a writer's strike in 2001, and it never happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very possible, but also, with all due respect, there are bigger things going on in 2001.
Well, that didn't happen until the fall.
Yeah, I did want to add that a friend of ours who isn't with us anymore, he's been deceased for almost 20 years. Randy Amasia actually went to some of the episodes. I know he was at the pilot episode.
Yeah, he had a full sort of write-up on the pilot, and he was not kind.
It was not very praiseworthy, no.
No.
So that's another way that the show bombed. It was, I mean, I don't think it was ever expected to be the next big hit, but based on just, good friends of ours writing on the internet, here's how I felt the show went, and they didn't have much good to say about it. Yeah. And again, I'm going back to the word absurd. That was the show in a nutshell. It was absurd humor. It wasn't straightforward. I mean, there were some sight gags and whatnot, but there are a lot of times where Troy Stevens broke the fourth wall to give a little wink or, some sort of little double entendre or something like that. It just doesn't play for a millionaire audience.
I was not a fan of this version of the show at all. And my thinking is, the game is basically, the game plays out in your head when you're playing it on the computer. You don't see everything that's going on. You're imagining what's going on. So when you actually see it on the show, it's like, it doesn't translate well.
It's like, this is, You Don't Know Jack, by and large, is an exercise of the theater of the mind. But when you put it on the TV show, you pop that bubble. I'm watching episode 4 right now on YouTube. There is a giant light that shines on the $2 million question and sets it on fire. Does that ever happen?
Well, thank heavens that didn't happen on the episode with Carl Lewis and the Torch. Now, you make a good point. That is, you do have to, there's a theater of the mind involved in all of this. And again, it got lost in translation. It sounds good in theory, but how many times have we said something sounds good in theory, but ... Yeah.
Well, also, here's the thing. You have too many people involved in this show. You obviously have the Jelly Division people, obviously, but you also have Carsey Warner. You also have Joel Hodgson, as we mentioned. Did we mention Robert Morton was involved in this?
Robert Morton from The Late Show?
Yes.
Oh, and you know who else was involved in this? Andrew Golder.
Who's Andrew Golder?
Who helped create both Debt and Win Ben Stein's Money.
Yeah, he's the guy behind Win Ben Stein's Money, yes. So he's definitely a known fixture.
So we have like all the hands on this show.
This is its case, and this is probably a reason why he did not care for this version. It's a case of too many cooks.
No, that's later this year.
It takes a lot to make a stew.
A pinch of salt and laughter too.
A scoop of kids to add the spice.
A dash of love to make it nice. And you've got
too many cooks.
Too many cooks.
Too many cooks. Too many cooks.
Too many cooks.
So yeah, just all these hands.
And that's not even including the people on the stage, because as we mentioned, there were ninjas. There were 3 ninjas. There was a mariachi band.
Wait, did you say 3 ninjas? Where was Rocky Colt and Tum Tum?
Why do I open the door for Greg? No. Okay, I apologize. There were ninjas, and there just happened to be one more than 2 of them on stage. And then you had the mariachi band, which consisted of at least 5 people. So, I mean, literally you had too many people or too many cooks behind the scenes and possibly too many in front of the scenes, too.
It's a good thing you said 5 mariachi people, because I was going to make a 3 Amigos joke.
I'm going to take off my leg. I'm dead serious. I'm going to take off my leg. I'm going to swing it around, sort of like how Tim Conway's ass in that chair on that episode of Ace Crawford, how he knocked over everything in Billy Barty's house. I'm going to just go totally crazy, swinging my leg around the house.
Oh,
good.
Boy.
Damn it. Okay. You know, I'm pulling up my
oh, no.
leg. Gonna throw the shankla around. Anywho. So yeah, there were just too many people involved. It was too outside the box, if you will. Maybe too much of a deviation from what the computer game was. And again, yeah, you're trying to get the younger demographic, which maybe you did get the younger demographic a little bit. But the older demographic who's never heard of You Don't Know Jack probably doesn't have an idea what's going on. I mean, I know my parents played You Don't Know Jack 25 years ago or so. That would have put them at my age, mid-40s at the time. But, I mean, how many people in their 60s or 50s played You Don't Know Jack? Probably not a whole heck of a lot.
So watching episode 5 on YouTube now, we have a question that is asked entirely in Japanese with the choices given in English. And that's before the $2 million question. That's how absurd this show is.
Oh, yeah, they had some very unconventional questions. There was an opera singer that came out and did a note, and they had to determine what note did she sing, A, B, C, or D. Did she sing an A, a B, a C, or a D? And everybody whiffed on that question. It was an A she sang. It was a very high A. I knew it wasn't C because I don't know what C sounds like. I played band for a number of years in high school, so...
Yeah.
But also, I mean, at that point, it sort of becomes a guessing game, and it's not a good look when, all 3 people are wrong. Yeah, no, it wasn't a D, no, it wasn't a B, no, it wasn't a C, it was an A. So now, it gets to be very luck-based, especially when, like you said, a question's read in Japanese, and then you're given 4 choices in English. Unless you're a Japanese speaker, This is a guessing game. And sort of a high-stakes guessing game at that, especially if it's in one of the later rounds. Now that I'm looking at it, now that we've mentioned some of these random events, now the show's sort of souring on me.
I told you it was.
I mean, I still loved Troy Stevens, the character. I'm sorry.
Paul Reubens was fine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you'll never get me to say a bad word about Paul Reubens between Troy Stevens, between Pee-wee's Playhouse, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I mean, he is part of my childhood. But, yeah, this is just too outside the box, I think. And when the game becomes, is it 1, 2, 3, or 4, and you're just guessing based on sheer luck, nothing to guide you in a certain direction necessarily, especially if you don't speak another language or you're tone deaf or what have you. That doesn't make a good game.
No. Like we said, computer game works because it's theater of the mind. When you actually see it in a real setting with real money, it doesn't work.
Nope.
I'll say the Jack Attack worked, but as a show...
Well, the Jack Attack is hard to mess up.
Well, that's very true. But as a whole, yeah, just in retrospect, this show, it's not that good. And again, it hurts me to say that because I love the franchise. And as I said also, if you're interested in playing You Don't Know Jack on one of the newer consoles, Jackbox Party Pack 1 has the version of You Don't Know Jack. And then there's a new one released, I believe, for Jackbox Party Pack 5. And they're on sale all the time because I see all sorts of stuff on Facebook about Steam sales and sales in the PlayStation Store.
Yeah, and also the original versions on PC are for sale at $2.99 each on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, you can get, I think, all the games. I want to say all the games, including like Head Rush and you mentioned the Ride and all that.
Yeah.
I don't think I think it's $20 for all the games. It's not all that much.
Yeah, the only games that are not included in that pack are You Don't Know Jack 5th Adventure, because I think that used an online feature in the game.
Yes, it did, yes.
And also, there were 2 versions, I remember, of the Net show that were released on PC for offline and Louder, Faster, Funny, which was like a best of the Berserk game. Those 2 versions aren't on Steam.
Aww.
But you can get them on PC CD-ROM, provided you have like an older Windows computer that can run them. Or a Mac, an older Mac somewhere.
Okay.
Well, I know we said this was a thing on TV like 10 or 15 minutes ago. Let's actually put a little bow on it. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say about You Don't Know Jack.
If you want to watch the shows, they're all on YouTube.
Yeah, if you know where to look.
Yeah, they're not that hard to find. With that, next week, it's nobody's birthday next week. Well, actually, it's not somebody's birthday, but the topic of our first show is related to somebody's day, which is in early March.
Oh.
Oh, yes.
It's a somebody.
It is a somebody. It is a known somebody.
It's a somebody.
It's a somebody.
Hey, paisanos.
Oh, why don't you just give them the answer, Greg?
That was the one hint I was hoping Greg wouldn't say. But then after we talk about that day, boy, I wonder who we're talking about.
Hey, let me consult my captain. I have to call my friend Lou.
Jeez. This is why we don't let Greg out of the house on weekends. Okay, and then the second episode, it was a continuation of a very successful show. I would call it a spin-off.
Sequel, even?
Well, I'd say technically it's a spin-off, but really it sort of keeps with the canon of the original show. So I would say think kind of sort of like Sanford Arms and Sanford, kind of sort of how that related to Sanford and Son.
Except most of the cast is actually in this.
Yeah, but some of the new people in this show, huge names.
Yes.
Oh, but yes.
Some people were famous at the time. Some people would go on to be famous later.
Exactly, yes.
One person in particular, but we're not going to say who just yet.
Yeah.
No, that should be an ample enough clue for the next week's
Let's
episode.
just say they call him a war machine.
Mike won't get it, but I'd get it.
Greg gets it. Anywho, remember, like, comment, and subscribe. Visit our website for all the previous episodes. And if you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to hit the bell.
Ding.
For future updates. And of course, big shout outs to our friends at PlayStation Nation. This week, we are dropping a couple of good ones, actually. What are we dropping this week?
Well, we had The Powers of Matthew Starr, and then we had To Tell the Truth 80. I gotta say, To Tell the Truth 80 was a lot of fun.
It really was.
It was one of the better shows as of late. I agree.
And one thing I forgot that I added in post was we mentioned that Jean Marsh was on the second week of To Tell the Truth 80.
Dame Jean Marsh, yes.
You do know that she was Sarah Kingdom in the Doctor Who serial, The Daleks' Master Plan, right?
I was today years old when I learned that.
Why how'd you not know that? That's pretty common that she was Sarah Kingdom.
Must have forgotten. I don't know. Imagine what else I'll learn from listening to this show.
And also, in addition to liking, subscribing, rating, reviewing us, don't forget the socials.
Yeah. All the socials.
Yeah, especially the Twitter. We're very active on Twitter. Not to say that we're not active on Facebook and also on Instagram, but add us on the socials. You'll see what episode the newest episode is literally like hours after it's released.
And also, if you have any feedback regarding something, or if you want to suggest a show or something, you could email us at itwasathingontv@gmail.com.
Really? We actually do have another email address. I didn't know that we have a Gmail address.
Yeah, well, I got that as the result of the YouTube channel.
Oh, okay. That's how they got the YouTube channel.
Got it. So that's it for this week. Thank you for my birthday gift for letting me talk about a show that I now have regrets about.
It aged well. No, it didn't.
It aged. It did age, but also, again, I'm now looking at it from a different pair of glasses, and yeah, they tried, but this was never going to be a show that lasted any considerable length of time. It was going to burn out at some point.
No, yeah.
And it just happened to burn out after a month.
Yeah.
Yep.
Until next week, thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Wow! That's the game! Blair, when I think of you, I think of superlatives like great, amazing, fabulous, trivia geek with no social life, stuff like that. But don't thank me, because the real truth is, you don't know jack.